I think the streaming has started, right? So should I start the introduction or should I wait for like 5 minutes for the viewer accumulation? A warm good afternoon to everyone who is viewing this. Campus Radio IISER Kolkata presents to you the second edition of The Art of Applying. And this time we have Mr. Ankit Basak from the 16MS batch, Department of Chemical Sciences. Ankit will be graduating as a chemistry major from IISER Kolkata in 2021. And he was a part of various clubs and initiatives, including Inquivesta, during his tenure at IISER Kolkata. He was a Kapsanet Getz Fellow and he worked in the Wiesmann Institute of Science for 3 months from June to August 2019. He is presently also a research assistant at Utrecht University from August 2020. He has worked on the synthesis procedures and optical characterization of quantum dots at the single molecular level in Professor Prasun Mandal's lab and has currently got PhD offers in chemistry from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Boston, and the University of California, Berkeley, and PhD offers in biophysics from Cornell University and Johns Hopkins University. We welcome him today to our show and we hope that his valuable insights may help all of us in the future. Just a few facts. We'll have a doubt session in between where Ankit will pause and we'll have the first doubt session. And at the end, I think we'll have another doubt session where you can ask the rest of the doubts. All of the doubts will be input in the YouTube comment box so we can take them on. Thank you. Yes, I think Ankit, there you can continue now.
Okay, thanks Adrija for the lovely introduction. So, hi, welcome everyone to the Art of Applying Part 2. So, I'm Ankit from DCS, IISER Kolkata. So, today I will be talking about certain trivia or let's say facts about the application procedures to PhD programs, mainly to the United States, and also briefly about Europe. So, mainly I applied to a lot of programs, so around 9 programs in the US for PhD, which included 6 programs for chemistry and 3 programs in biophysics. And I have also some certain idea regarding the PhD applications in Europe, since I considered some of those. But I only applied to only a single program in Europe, which is the Max Planck Matter to Life program. So today I will be talking to you about some of the aspects of application procedures, and these would be mainly limited to the US applications, and some of them would be like some ideas about the European system, but it will be more like limited to ideas in PhD applications in Israel or like Netherlands, and not the entire Europe. So because I do not have any experience in those parts, so let us begin. So first I will be talking briefly about the European application. So in the European application, there are 2 major kind of like universities. Some universities offer programs which are certain organized programs where you have to apply, and they have a lot of like criteria like SOPs or you have to submit grades, and you have to like submit an entire application, and that application will be reviewed by professors, and there will be interviews that are held as an integral part of these programs, so where you will be asked to like explain your research background, your academic background, and what are your research interests and future career goals. And these programs generally extend between 3 to 4.5 years for the PhD. And the funding mostly comes from the program, so you do not have to be like funded directly from your supervisor. And as a result of that, you have more freedom to choose your project or projects that you want to do for your graduate research. The other kind of applications are the individual openings. So there are like websites where the faculty in periodically post openings in their labs for graduate students, and you have to apply to a single position depending on whichever opening you see. So these generally occur all throughout the year, and is not like they do not have any set deadlines, which is unlike the program. So basically, you can apply all around the year. Also, the general time to taking for to graduate generally varies between 3 to 3.5 years. Sometimes it may go up to 4 or 4.5 years. And the main difference from the programs is that funding for this kind of individual openings comes from a particular research grant that the professor has submitted, and therefore the main idea of the graduate research is mainly connected to the main grant project that has been described. You have a certain degree of freedom to pursue other projects, but it will be mostly connected to the main grant. And the way you can look for this kind of positions is by maybe by joining academic Twitter, because in Twitter a lot of professors periodically post like openings and positions that are open in their labs. Also, there are some websites like academicpositions.com, which also periodically post these kind of openings. So the difference between European PhD program and the US program is that in European program you graduate a lot early, unlike the US program. So the US program generally extends somewhere between 4.5 to 6 or even 6.5 years, but here it is much less. And another main reason is that because you have very little coursework in the European system, so hardly one or two courses in the like entire graduate program. And another big advantage about these European programs is that you can always know like who is your supervisor before you are committing to the program. So since even if you are applying to a program or like individual openings, you have certain idea like he or she would be the my supervisor, main supervisor. And so before you are committing to like the PhD, you already know your supervisor. The disadvantage that some people say about the European system is that there is very little time to publish, because in 3 or 3.5 or 4.5 years you have to like hit the ground running and try to publish from the first year itself. So it's a very like hectic and competitive. And also the teaching opportunities are much less compared to the European system. Another important problem is that you cannot switch your field once you have like chosen the PhD supervisor, because you're mainly applying to a particular supervisor. So switching the field is very tough. And between the European and the US system, I would say that the system is basically, the difference is limited to like a institute culture and a university setting. So in a university, it's like you have a much broader range of subjects that are being taught. There are undergrads, and in the institute culture, it's much more research specific. So it's mainly limited to research only. So now I will be talking about the US program. So in the US program, you are admitted to a particular department, and after you have been admitted, you either do rotations in each group, which is basically like you visit each of the groups for a certain period, say like even 2 weeks, or maybe it may go to up to 3 months, and you get a feel of how the lab culture is in a particular lab. And then you rotate between 3 or 4 labs, and then you finally choose your supervisor. And they're expected to be a teaching assistant for at least the first year, or like 2 to 3 semesters, because the pay for international students is not supported from any kind of fellowship, but through that is not any kind of government fellowship, because we are ineligible for them. But it is supported through teaching assistantship, where you have to do a TA and you get paid for that. And the typical duration for this kind of US programs is around 4.5 to 6 years, and it depends on mainly the program and the university. So it may be you may be graduating very early, around like 5 years, or it may go up to like 6.5 or 6 years. It also depends on the lab that you are working in. So you need to know like what is the typical duration for which PhD students work in that particular lab. And you also get to write grants for projects that you want to pursue in graduate studies. So that is one thing that the US system is actively pursuing, that international students can actually write grants for their professors. And there are other advantages, which is like that you can take courses in the university setting which are not related to STEM fields, like management courses or like humanities or sociology, which is something that you cannot do in a European system. So that is a very big advantage for the US system if anyone wants to do something related to management and like the applications of research in management and stuff like that. So for that, it would be very advantageous. So now I'll be talking about the timeline for the US applications. So like, what is the timeline that students applicants like in our year there was a lot of more freedom because we did not have a lot of classes due to the COVID scenario, and we didn't have to like work much for our thesis. I come from an experimental lab, so since I was back at home, so I had a lot of freedom to like do other things. So I didn't have any time pressure, but from next year onwards, you will be expected to like do both your like MS thesis at your labs or group, and simultaneously apply for the PhD program. So I would suggest that you guys start early. So the first thing you have to decide is that whether you want to apply for a PhD this year or not, and you should decide this very early by March or April, because that sets the tone, like what you want to do. If you do not want to apply this year, you maybe want to continue like some other research work and then apply next year, then no problem, then decide that early. And then you should go through the profiles of all the relevant researchers in different fields. So you have to decide like what is the broad research area that you want to pursue for your graduate study, and for that you need to like know what are the different fields that are being explored right now all over the world. And you need to go through each of the faculty's websites. What are the research that is being done? Is there any unique research that is being done, or what are the things that people are pursuing right now? So ideally you should finish this by at least July, and by June you should like a good idea like what is your broad research area. And then you have to like narrow down your research interest to a particular like subject or like a particular field, and you need to do that by at least August or September, because after that you need to focus on your applications. And then there's the English requirement exam, the TOEFL, and I would suggest that you do the TOEFL much early, like in April or May, because we did our TOEFL around in, I think I did it in September. But the problem is that if in case you do not have a good TOEFL score and you want to like give the exam once again, then there's very little time if you like do give it in September. So I would suggest you do it early, so that even if it goes wrong or you want to give another try, you can always like reschedule, like get another date, or in case there is some unforeseen circumstances which happened this year, you can always reschedule. And then there are the two exams that we didn't have to give at all this year, the GRE subject and the GRE general exams. So the GRE subject exams occur only on fixed dates. So there are 3 dates, one in April, one in September, and one in October. And GRE general you can give anytime, but I would suggest to finish GRE general at least by August, because by September end you should focus mainly on your application. So try to complete as much of this TOEFL and GRE like stuff before you like before meeting your potential supervisors. So I have friends who actually applied started mailing around in May also. So potential supervisors at a time when other people aren't mailing, so that they actually read your mails, because what happens like at the peak time there are so many emails, they do not get the time to open it. So you should mail very early, or you mail very at the very end, like in the October end to like in November, because that's also when like people do not mail anymore. So there's a good chance of submitting applications. So the applications actually open in let's say in September, and and the deadline for these applications is November end, that is December 1st, or sometimes for some programs it is for December 15th. So start by, I think you should start submitting as many applications as you want to. So now then selecting your grad school choices. So for selecting the grad school choices, one second. Yeah. So yeah, so for selecting your grad school, so you need to first ask the question like, what do you want to pursue in your graduate study? So first you need to see like whether the research, what are the research interests of the different faculty who are working in your discipline or in a like related discipline. And the way you can do this is like you can go through the web pages that every faculty almost maintains, which details what are the like current research projects that are going on in their lab. And if you're interested in the broad topic they're pursuing, then you should look at the recent publications either on the web page if they're updating it regularly, or on Google Scholar, and see if you want to pursue this kind of research. And if you're interested in a particular topic, then I would always encourage you to not just stick to that supervisor only, but look at other supervisors who are working in the same field, and try to read their papers and see like what is the field all about. And finally, like decide like if you want to pursue research in that area or sub-discipline. And then comes the next part, which is the choosing your graduate school. So for choosing the graduate school, I would suggest that you read through the program very carefully, what the program is about and what are the main like key points about the program. Look at the faculty in the department, which is the most important thing, like who are the faculty who are associated with this program and the department. And see if there is any faculty in your sub-discipline you would like to work with. And the problem, there is a one problem that you need to select at least 3 faculty who you would be comfortable working with, because generally in these applications you are asked to rank your choices for supervisors, and you need to give at least 3 faculty in those choices. So if there are less than 3 faculty in your area in that particular program, then I would suggest to look for other programs as well. And also look at the requirements of the program, like how long is the people take for graduation, or how is the funding scenario, and like what are the additional support that is provided by the program. And also the most important thing, like what are the alumni who had actually did their graduate in this program, what are they doing, and what are their opinions about the program. You can always contact some of them and over mail, and ask them how they felt about the program, and if they would suggest you to pursue this particular program. And then it comes to deciding your options. So choose wisely which programs you would like to apply to. This is because there's an application fee for almost all US programs. So it varies. Sometimes it's as less as $35 also. Sometimes mainly it is around 65, 75 or to $100. And some programs like the UC systems have around $140 as the application fee. So the main way you can actually decide your choices. So if you have 10 or 12 choices, or 7 or 8 choices, then always take 3 kind of choices in your graduate school list. So there should be a safe school. So a safe school is a school you think that with your profile you can definitely get. It is something that is something that is sure. So that so these are the programs that you feel that you have a very good chance of getting into with your profile. And then there are the top choice schools. These are schools that are very either highly ranked, or some programs that you feel that it might be a reach, but you can maybe get in if luck favors. So you should have some top choices schools in your list also. And how many of each school you want to apply to is up to you. So you decide, if you have 10 choices, whether you would have 3, 3, 4, or 1, 2, or 7. that's you up to you totally. And what is an important thing is that the number of selections or acceptances do not matter. So after you have like received your application like acceptances or like whatever, then it does not matter like if you have got acceptances from 7 schools or 6 schools or 5 schools. What matters is the particular school that you got into. It is always like advantageous if you have like a multiple number of schools to choose from, but try to make sure like you get at least one good school. So that is the take home message, right? Like at the end of the day, you need one good school that you actually are willing to join, and do not apply to any school that you are not willing to attend. Do not do that, because first of all, then even if you are accepted, then you are wasting the seat, or at least you are wasting your money at least. So don't do that. And then comes the important part, which is the mailing your prospective graduate supervisors. So why is mailing important in the US scenario? So generally in the US scenario, mailing is not very important because the main decision whether you will be accepted or like not accepted, that depends on the graduate committee, which is but the thing is that if you mail your potential supervisor, it does increase your chances a bit, because what happens is that since the grad committee is also consisting of professors only, so your potential supervisor, if he's serving on the grad committee, then he can definitely push your application. And if he or she is not like on the graduate committee, then at least he or she can tell you like if you have a good like shot at making into the program. That matters a lot, because each of these applications cost a lot of money, so you need to like increase your chances, or at least get an honest opinion that whether you can get into the program or not. And also sometimes what happens, this happened for me. So when you mail a prospective supervisor, what happens is that a lot of supervisors have multiple affiliations in a lot of departments, so they can actually guide you to specific programs that you might have a better choice, like better chance of getting accepted into. So this happened to me in John Hopkins, where my professor told me about this program, which was which was mainly targeted at international biophysics students. And so that helped me to get into John Hopkins biophysics department, because John Hopkins as a institute is always like does not take a lot of international students. So it's very important that you like ask your supervisor if they have like any advice regarding your application. So that is very important. And there are some applications like in Cornell and I think Stanford also ask like if you have contacted any faculty for the program, and they even also ask you some things like when did you contact, by what like mode, email or any phone or whatever. And that helps because they can get an idea from that potential supervisor what he thinks of you as a candidate for the program. So next is choosing your potential supervisor. So how do you choose your potential supervisor? So the main thing that is most important is the research interest, that your research interest and his or her research interest match together, and also the current work. So that is very important, because a lot of professors like tend to do something radically different from what they had been doing like 5 years ago. So you do not want to like go into apply to a program thinking that he's doing that thing which was being done 5 years ago, so I'm interested in that. So don't do that. So always ask your supervisor like what is the current work that he's being done in his or her group. Also look at the publishing record, whether they're publishing regularly or they're not publishing at all, or if they're publishing in good journals. That is very important. Another important thing is that what are the alumni from the group doing? Are they in places like in industry or in academia that you want to actually go into? So that would be a big help if there are alumni from the group in those positions or related positions. Also look at the funding. So what happens is that after the first 3 semesters or the 2 semesters of TA-ship, you can always get an RA-ship from the grant of your supervisor. So if your supervisor has a lot of funding, then you do not have to worry about TAing a lot. So that actually increases the time that you can actually spend towards research. Also look for collaborations, which is very important in academia as well as in industry. So look at who are the collaborators for your potential supervisors, and always talk to current and ex students about what is the latest lab culture, how is the supervisor's mentoring style, and what are his or her expectations from graduate students. So current and ex students can give a very good idea about what you can expect from your supervisor. So I will be showing an example. This is an example of a mail, typical standard format of a mail that you can write to your potential supervisor. You start by describing yourself and what is your field of interest and what you are currently working in and what you want to work in for your graduate studies, and then you can include the latest research that you are interested in from your supervisor's lab, and what are your relevant experiences that that give you some skills that may be like very useful for pursuing this kind of research. And also look at the always mention the specific problem in the group that you want to actually work on. So generally all supervisors work on multiple problems, and do not write any generic mail like I want to work with you, but try to like at least show some interest, like I want to work with you in this particular problem, this is something that I am also interested in. So show some enthusiasm towards the problem that you actually want to solve, and write them in the mail itself. And then you can ask like if there are any graduate positions available in the lab, and whether they would be allowing to allow you to work in this kind of topics under their supervision, and attach your CV and well, hope for the best. So also, I will be talking for remote internships. So there are, I think, some people from the third and fourth year also who are joining in. So they may be interested in some remote internships. So in also remote internships, which are mainly like limited to computational projects and theoretical projects only. So you can actually do such internships in the summer without like traveling to abroad in this COVID scenario. So you need to just explain like what are the like projects that you are particularly interested in, and if you can like contribute to their research, and explain that due to the COVID scenario that you can only work remotely, and if they would be willing to allow a remote student for their project, and explain any kind of like background that you may have that may be related to this kind of projects. And the mail remains more or less pretty much the same. And then you go to the statement of purpose, which is one of the most important parts of your application. So what is the statement of purpose? So the statement of purpose is a document that encapsulates your background, your research experience, your academic experience, your future goals, and your motivation and reasons for application to this particular program that you're applying to. So what are the main things that you need from a like SOP? What is the main thing? So your SOP should be innovative and unique. So this is very important. So do not like copy a SOP format from somewhere on the internet or from your friend's SOP. Do not do that, because this SOP is something that gives an idea, helps the like faculty or grad committee, whoever is reading this your SOP, they get a good idea about your personality, about your interest from this SOP. So try to make sure that the SOP is innovative and unique, so that they can get a good idea about you from that SOP. And try to make it crisp. Do not go into a lot of unrelated stuff. Do not write a lot of things in the SOP. The SOP should be very to the point, and it should be well detailed. You do not want to miss any details that in your SOP, and it should be very logical. So anything you write on your SOP, you must always validate that. So suppose you're writing that I worked on this project and I did this and this stuff, then always explain like why did you do that. Like what was your main motivation for doing that kind of experiments, like what was the main motivation for doing that project at all, what was the like take home message from that is like experience. So it should be very logical. It should, everything that you write in the SOP, it should have a reason like why you did that and what were the results. So these are things that should be there in your SOP. It should be very well structured. So like do it in a very sequential manner so that it reads like kind of like a story. They get go from the start to the bottom, and they get a good idea about your who you are and what is your experience and what you did. So it should be very well structured, and it should be very easy to read. Do not write a lot of very complicated English or anything. It should be easy to read, because people spend very little time on this SOP. Like whoever is going through your application, they have to go through maybe 800 more applications. So they do not have a lot of time to spend on your SOP. So make it easy to read for them, and you should have a strong narration. So strong narration means that you should write in a bold manner. Do not say things like this was done, or this project was done, or make it sound like you had to do this project because you kind of got into this internship and you had to do that. Do not write like that. Write in a affirmative tone that yes, I did this, which led me to this question, and then I thought about doing this and I did this. So you should take like charge of your own project. That should be very evident from your SOP. Like you own your own narrative. That is very important. And start early, because a good SOP takes almost around a month to write. For me, it took around almost like a month or more to completely perfect my SOP. So at least the first draft of like from the first draft to the final SOP, that also takes a lot of time. You need to cut out all the unnecessary parts and make it crisp. So I will be now talking about some of the key components of the SOP. So first, we begin with a slight introduction, which is the second most important paragraph, because this is the paragraph that tells you tells anyone who's reading your SOP that this is who you are. This is the first opening statement, so it should be very important, and it sets the tone for the entire SOP. And what you should include in this first paragraph is that who you are, and why you are applying to this program, and what is your research interest. Do not include a lot of stuff in this. Just make it in a single line or two lines that this is why I'm applying to the program. These are my research interests. And what happens is that if you make it very small, then at least whoever is reading or like skimming through your SOP, they get a good idea that this guy or this girl wants to work in this particular topic. And maybe this professor who is in our department, he is the best person to read this SOP and judge like what is the caliber of this person. So that is very important, that your SOP should be read by someone, or your application should be read by someone who is in that same research field that you are applying in. Sometimes it may not happen, so make it easy for them so that they can sort out your application and give it to the best possible person to read your application. And then the second paragraph is who are you. So you need to talk about yourself, your education, your qualifications. So what is the BSMS program, that is an integrated masters, and you have both of the degrees. You make it clear in that. And you need to also write about any challenges that may have defined during your college education. So if you had to overcome any serious challenges like economic challenges or some health problems or anything, you may also include something like what inspired you to pursue science as a career. You can write all of this. It defines who you are. So after that, you go into the relevant topics in the courses that will be beneficial for your graduate studies. So do not write the name of the courses. Do not write I did physics 4 or physics 3 or chemistry, general history. Do not write like that. Write what was the course all about. So if you are doing something say in spectroscopy, you can write all the spectroscopy courses together. I have done courses in spectroscopy, or I have done courses in cell biology, and just what are the relevant background that you have. Just a broad idea would be enough. And do not elaborate too much and keep things crisp. So next is the most important part of your recipe, that everyone wants to see. So which is what is your research background, because the PhD is essentially a research degree, and your research background is the main thing that defines what is your research skills. So what you should ideally do is if you have multiple research experiences through internships, or maybe you have joined a lab, or maybe you are doing your thesis, so try to include them in is a separate paragraph for each of them and describe them in detail. So what are the details that should be there? So in the beginning, start with the what was the duration of your project, where was the institute where you did your project, what was the location of the institute, and what was the name of your supervisor. This is very important because unless you give them like the basic context, writing anything about your internship doesn't like make any sense, because like they want to get an idea like where was this, okay, so this person did this project, why did they do it, under whom. So these are the very basic things that you need to write first, and then you should follow that with the title of the project, or you may describe the main theme of the project in simple words. And then you explain what was the background for this project, like what was the rationale behind this project, and what prompted like you or the research group you were working at, what prompted them to like do this kind of particular research, and what was the main hypothesis behind your project. And then you include any experiment or calculation or any modeling that you did or to investigate the problem, and what was your results and how did you analyze them. And also another important thing is that what was the take home message from this project, like if you did this research, what was the outcome, how were the results valid, like did the results give you any like key idea towards anything, or what did the like results actually mean. So these are very important, and then you go into the future ideas or interests or skills that you gained. So but if you like worked in a particular lab, then what were the skills that you developed from that project, and how they may be related to any other future projects that you may work on. So these are the things that you need to write in your research background. Try to include them, you can do them in a chronological or reverse chronological manner, it doesn't matter much. And then you go into the next paragraph, which is the current interest and the faculty you are interested to work with. So here you need to name at least 3 or 4 or 5 faculty members that you are interested in working with, and try to include a single line for each of the faculty members, and which part of their research that you are most interested in. And try to, some applications sometimes say that you may need to like define a single particular research problem that you may be interested in pursuing in your graduate research. So for that you need to include a separate paragraph and do some research, and like what is the this problem that I want to work on. So you do not need to give a lot of details, just like the background of the problem, why is it relevant, and what may be the way that you can solve it. And then you go into the conclusion, which is why you are applying to this university or this particular department. So mainly what you can write is what is the why you wanted to apply to this specific department. If there was any specific faculty who you wanted to work with and they were in this department, you can always explain that. You can always write about the collaboration scope. So a lot of US universities are like collaborating with national labs also, so you can write about that. And also you can write about the breadth and depth of the program. So some programs are very strong in a particular field of research, and some programs have a lot of like collaboration with other fields of research. So these are very important for graduate studies, so you can mention that. And you need to like end the SOP with like a message like what will be you bringing to the university as an incoming student. So what are the like overall skills or like perspective that you would bring to the university, and how can the program help you towards your future goals. So you have to write about your future goals, whether you want to do go into academia, or you want to do go into industry, or you want to do something else, and like how can the program help you towards that. That is very important. And then there are some essential tips which was I think given by this site at Berkeley. So I find them very very good tips for writing the SOP, and some of them I actually followed. So you can always read through them. So the admission committee mainly reads what is in between the lines, the motivation, the competence, and your potential. And also like you need to write everything in a positive perspective and not in a passive voice. and you need to always demonstrate things, so which is the logical part of the SOP. You need to always show things. Do not say like this happened or something like that. You need to always show why this is happening, like why you wanted to do this. Like if you say I gained this skill, like tell them like how you gain that skill, and you need to explain things. So and then you go into like anything that may have affected your grades, like economic problems or illness or whatever problems that you had to overcome. And it should be very focused, which is like the well structured manner, and stick to your word limit. So mostly all programs have a word limit or a page limit. So 2 pages or like 1,000 words or 1,500 words or 500 words, whatever is the word limit, stick to that. And then we come to the personal statement. So the personal statement is basically a document that gives an idea of who you are as a person, and what are the values, perspectives, and outlooks that you offer, and how you can positively affect the higher education system with this kind of perspectives or values. And how can you give back to the community through your perspective, or like through your commitment or through your work. So you need to explain that in a personal statement. So what are the things that you can include in your personal statement? So mainly the personal statement focuses on that part of your SOP, that what were like the challenges you faced, or in the SOP you do not write that much in detail. So you can always have a chance to like explain your challenges or obstacles in details in the personal statement. And then you can always go for like whether you have any work experience towards increasing representation for underrepresented people in academia. So if you have worked towards anything that has helped suppose students from a underprivileged background to get higher education, and if you have tried anything to make higher education affordable for all. And so if you have done any kind of work related to that, you can explain that. And you can always even if you haven't worked if you haven't like achieved anything significant in this work, but you have at least understood what were the problems that people are facing. And like if you have any ideas like how you can mitigate these kind of problems, then also you should include those in your personal statement, because that shows like what is your perspective as an incoming graduate student, and adds value to the graduate cohort. So and also you can describe work experiences that have developed your organizational or communication or leadership skills, and how you can actually use these experiences to create a difference in the future, both in academia or in the society or in the particular neighborhood. You can always use these kind of skills anywhere for creating a difference. So these are things that you should include in the personal statement. And then there are things like if you have tried to solve any problems faced by the society, and how can your background in science help this kind of problems. And if you have worked to solve any kind of gender inequality or economic background inequality issues, whether in academia or in society or any particular field or any particular background, so you should actually include that in your personal statement. And again, the most important fact is that the SOP and the personal statement are very unique. So anything you write on the SOP and the personal statement, that gives an idea of who you are as a person. So do not copy that from anywhere on all from the internet, because that actually is does not help anyone. And people if people accidentally like recognize that you have actually copied that from somewhere, then that gives a very bad impression of you as a candidate. So do not do that, and try to like own your own narrative. So this is like telling a story about yourself. So try to make sure that you own your narrative and write this with as much honesty as you can. So yeah, then comes the CV. So the CV is a very important part. So I think everyone from first year knows how to write a CV. So write in a like clear, proper, and sequential manner, and include your research experiences in a reverse chronological manner. manner. So include the most like recent experience at the top, and you go down. As you go down, you include the older experiences, and ideally put your research experiences at the beginning, right after your educational background. This is very important because sometimes when faculty like look at your they don't, if suppose they are in a hurry or they are like looking at a lot of applications on a single day and they have to look at your CV, so they try to see like whatever is visible in the like in the first. So try to include the research experience at the top, because the research experience is the most important part in a application. So you should try to highlight that as much as possible. And then you can like always include some points about your research experiences. So I have shown an example below, which is from my own CV. So suppose you are like showing like you have worked in this particular research group, and what was your designation as a researcher, and who was your advisor, and what was his or her designation in the department. And then you can explain like what was the project about, what was the main project, and what were the main things that you did during the project. So that gives a good idea, like people will get a good idea like he or she has done this in the project, and so they can infer like they have this kind of skills. So that is very important. And you can follow standard templates for the CV, I think, because like in the CV it is all about you, because everything you write, it is all about you. So no problem in any you cannot plagiarize that or anything. And then you should also include the contact details of your referees, and before including that you should always take the permission. But this is something you should try to do, because sometimes if like your if one of your referees cannot upload your like recommendation letter, they can and if they see their name in the program, so the program can always like contact them on their own. And if there is anything, any problem or any question that they want to ask their referee, they can always do that if you have mentioned their contact details in your CV. So try to do that. And then comes the recommendation letter. So the recommendation letter is a very important part of your application. So if what if you have to rank all of the stuff that you are putting in your application, the recommendation letter is almost at the top, because it is because when the grad committee is reviewing your application, the grad committee consists of a lot of professors, and when they're looking at a number of grades, like every person has a different grades, different research experiences. So it is very difficult to like judge or compare one candidate with the other. So because one institute may be giving very high grades consistently to everyone, one institute may be consistently giving low grades, or the grading system might be different. Maybe one grading is very harsh, one grading is very like easy, and everyone gets a plus in every course. So you cannot judge that from like looking at a CV. So what they look for is like how do your supervisor grade you as a student, because that is something they can trust. So the recommendation letter automatically becomes very important. So ask your professors if they're willing to write a strong recommendation for you. And you should always ask this well in advance, at least a month or 2 months earlier, because they need to take some time. You need to give them some time to like write their recommendation, and also give them your CV and your SOP, so that they get a context like okay, this applicant is working like going to apply in this direction, so I will try to like tailor my recommendation that fits with that. So always try to do, like give them your SOP and your CV, so that they have a good idea about you. And also you should mention them as early as possible, that if you want them to include something particular in the recommendation letter. So suppose you have very bad grades due to some particular reason, suppose you had some sickness, or maybe you are doing some research and you couldn't focus that much on your academics, or like maybe you want to like you did not have a lot of publications, so you want to emphasize your research potential in a particular field. Or suppose you do not have you want to show that you have the knowledge of some advanced topics that are not covered in your courses, or you just want to like show like what is your personality as a student, if you're a like a team worker, or if you have some leadership skills. So you can always ask your recommender if they're willing to mention that in their CV, in their recommendation letter, because that amplifies that particular like skill or whatever thing that they're writing. So that amplifies that. So that makes sure that that committee also sees that in a very positive light. And also try to make sure that every recommender focuses on a different strength of your profile. So this is something I try to personally do in my recommendation letters. So I ask like almost referees that if they would be willing to focus on a particular part of my particular strength of my profile. And I asked every one of them to like focus on different skills, because if you put them together, then that makes a very good overall picture. So you can do that. And also you can always ask them for their opinions regarding your grad school choices. So they can read it once they have gone through your CV and your statement of purpose and your personal statement. They can actually like give you some very valuable advice regarding which like departments you should consider applying to, whether you are a very good fit for a particular program that you are already applying to, or if there's something wrong in your CV or statement, then also they can mention that. So that is very valuable. So I would suggest that contact your professors very early, at least 2 months prior to the application deadline. Give them all your CV and your statements and ask them to just go through them and review them, and give you some advice on that. And right before the application submission, you can give them weekly reminders if the deadline has approached, so that sometimes they may be very busy with other things. So you should always give them weekly reminders and for the recommendation submission, because you need to like they also need to submit it early, because right on the deadline there may be some sort of internet problem or stuff like that. So generally it does not matter, because a lot of the US programs actually allow recommenders to submit till at least 2 or 3 days after the deadline. So because they understand that there may be some problem with this submission of the recommendation letter. There may be some email miscommunication to which email they have to send, or if there's some glitch in the website, they have to upload their recommendation in. So you are safe for 2-3 days after the application deadline, so it does not matter. So next comes the English speaking exam, the TOEFL. So the TOEFL is a very important, is not that much an important parameter, but it is still very important. So the TOEFL mainly gives the grad committee an idea, like what is your English speaking skill, and like can you communicate or understand any stuff that is being taught in English, or if you have to like teach a particular course in English. They make a judgment of your English skills based on the TOEFL. Uh, so I would suggest that give the TOEFL very early, so at least 2 to 3 months before the application deadline. So this is very important, because the TOEFL is a third-party exam, so it is conducted by the ETS. So the problem is that during the pandemic scenario, there were a lot of like problems with the availability of like test centers and stuff like that, and maybe due to some unknown reason or like unforeseen reason, your date may be cancelled, and they might reschedule to some a date that is at least 2 or 3 weeks away from your current date. So, and if you are doing this right before your application deadline, then you cannot send your scores, and that is a very big problem, because your application is not complete unless your graduate program has received your TOEFL scores. And also like after the exam they take 7 days to like send the scores to a particular department. So there is also a gap there. So I would suggest to not go into this at all, to give the exam as early as possible, maybe in like like the summer, like May, June, because what happens is that the TOEFL, there is another problem that the TOEFL has a very like it has a cutoff. Every program has a cutoff for the TOEFL. So some programs are very lenient about the TOEFL cutoffs. So even if you are not above that particular cutoff, they may still allow you to apply to the program. And the clause is that before you get like formally accept in your offer, you need to either give the TOEFL again, or you need to do some English courses once you go to the campus before you start your TAship or your coursework. So, but the problem is that there are some institutes which are very stringent about the TOEFL cutoffs, particularly the section-wise cutoffs. So the TOEFL has 4 sections. So it's the reading, listening, speaking, and writing skills. So the main problem comes with the speaking skills and the listening skills, because these are the parts of the TOEFL that people do not score very well in, and the cutoffs are also very high for this kind of sections. So that is a very big problem. So in case suppose you give the TOEFL exam and it is not up to the mark, so I would suggest that you give it early so that you can always have a chance to give it again in case something goes wrong on the day of the test. So another important thing is that try to take a mock test before you actually start preparing for TOEFL, and see what are your scores, and that would actually guide you to which section you need to put in more work in. And the key to getting a good score in TOEFL is just practice, nothing else. So all you need to do is keep a time in a time bound format. You just keep on practicing question sets. There are plenty of like resources available online. You can just download from those sources and you can like start practicing. All you need to do is like practice consistently, at least for a week or 2 weeks before the exam, depending on how you score in your mock test. And then like decide like what is the amount of work like hours that you want to put into this section. And keep an eye out for the speaking and the listening sections, because these are the parts that people do not tend to do well in. So do that. And also book the dates well in advance, because as you approach the date, there will be more and more like people would be booking their dates as well. So it's very hard to book a date. So try to do that well in advance. And the fees for TOEFL is around $180 with and the thing is that once you need to send the TOEFL scores to a particular department, for the first 4 programs it is absolutely free. After that, for each time you send the score to a particular department, you need to like spend another $20 for each of them. So I would suggest that you give the TOEFL with a lot like good preparation and give it once, because it costs a lot of money, and you do not want to like give it twice and waste another $180. So, and also another problem with the giving the exam at the center is that sometimes the listening and the speaking sections are worse affected, because there's a lot of background noise at the exam centers, which is mainly due to other candidates who speak very loudly during the exam, and you cannot concentrate when you are listening to someone else speaking right beside you. So always try to make sure that you practice something in a noisy background, so that you can actually get a feel of how the exam hall scenario would be. It won't be very difficult, I would say, because if you like maintain a like more or less good voice, and you are paying attention, then you can actually ace the listening and the speaking sections as well. So good luck with the TOEFL. And so now I think I will take a break of about 10 minutes. So I will be taking any questions that you might have. And after this, we will be continuing with the interview sections, which is something that happens after you submit your applications. So after the break, we will again continue with this. Okay. So I will stop sharing my screen.
Yes, Ankita, we have 3 questions for you for the time being.
Okay.
So,
Wait, one second. Yeah.
Krikant
The
Kumar
video.
asks, how difficult or easy is it to do a PhD on a different field of a subject than the one I did my MS thesis in?
Okay. So if you want to do, I think this is something I have also covered in the later slides, I think. So if you want to do a PhD in something that is different from your MS thesis, so what matters is that whether you have any other research background in that particular field. If you do not have any research experience that is relevant to that like particular field, then I think it is very difficult, because people would like to see that if you have any kind of, then you can do something, like you can always like say like I gained this skill from this research project, and I think these skills might be like very important if I apply to this particular field. But it would be always better like if you apply to a field that you at least have some research experience in that area or in a related field. So do not try to apply into an absolutely unrelated field, because without experience, you are always at a disadvantage.
Okay, so the next question is by Rohan Dahale, who asks, all these paragraphs in the statement of purpose amount to almost 1,000 to 1,500 words. How do we stick to the less than 1,000 word limit?
Okay, so when you go to less than 1,000 word limit, it actually becomes a very big problem. So you cannot include all of that. So you need to like use your better judgment to like exclude whatever is not very necessary. So what you can do is you can maybe cut off some of the you can shorten your paragraphs where you describe yourself, and ideally keep the research part intact, because the research part is the most important part of your SOP. You may like decrease the size of the paragraphs that describe why you are choosing this particular department or your this particular university, but try to make sure that your research parts are like completely okay, because these are the details there, that those are the things that help the faculty to make a decision. Also do not exclude that mentioning which faculty you want to work with, because that is also very important. So keeping these two things intact, I think you can decrease the other parts. There's no problem there.
Right. And I have a question, which is the third question. For every
Okay.
PhD application, should the recommendations from the professors differ, or can we just use the same recommendations?
Okay, so the thing is that generally when a particular faculty agrees to like write a recommendation for you, they generally write a single like recommendation for you, and they will send it to multiple programs. So you can do one thing which I did personally during my application. So what I did was that I asked more than 3 faculty to be my referees, and I had like around 6 referees for my applications, and I always like had a different combination of these 3 recommendation letters for different programs. So that is something you can do. So because you never know like which particular like recommendation letter would be a fit for that program. So you can always mix and match and try to see which one works out. Because in the end, it would matter like you need to only get one like PhD offer, because that is the most important thing. To at least get one. If you get more than one, that is okay. That's very good. But at least you need to get one. So I would suggest that you try to mix and match your recommendations and see whichever works best.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's another question which asks, how important is CGPA in getting a PhD program?
Okay, so what happens is that the CGPA is a important part of the program, but like of your application, but it is not the most important fact, because the most important thing is your research experience. So if you have a very good research experience and you do not have like a very good CGPA, then it's okay. Because what matters is not whether you have a good CGPA or not. What matters is that whether you got good grades in the coursework that is relevant to your graduate program. So suppose you have a more than 9 CGPA and you have done horribly in your like quantum mechanics courses, and you are applying to quantum something related to quantum in your PhD, then it does not matter whether you have a 9 CGPA, because you do not have a very good grade in that particular field that you want to work in. So that is very important, that you should have good grades in the particular field that you want to work in. So that is very important. coursework that you have to do once you go to the program, and also you may have to teach some of these courses that are relevant to your program. So they want to make sure that you have a sound understanding of this like coursework. So the CGPA is mainly a representation of that. So but what is most important is getting the grades, because in those courses you may have very bad like grades in say like biology, but you're applying in mathematics. So it doesn't matter, right? So what matters is that you are like the relevant courses are okay. So that's the thing.
Right. Thank you so much, Ankit. I think this is all the doubts for the time being.
Okay. So I think we can start the rest part of the like presentation. Is that okay?
Yes, yes, I think we can continue.
Okay. Okay. So now comes the most important part of like after you submit your like applications, which is the interviews. So generally, it is not like entirely true that all the programs that you apply to either in US or Europe will ask you for an interview, because there are some programs. In my case, also there were some programs which directly admitted me without any interviews. But there are some programs that actually mention in the program details that there will be some interviews in the like when you apply to before the application only, they will say that there will be interviews. Or in some cases like they may ask you to do a brief interview just to get a like more like good look at your personality or your experiences, and hear something more from you. So the interviews are mainly of two types. So one is the what I call the panel interview, where you will be like meeting a lot of professors in a particular setting. So generally over Zoom or Google Meet, or if you in your case, if you are like if everything is okay with the COVID scenario, you may be asked to like go to visit the university and then have your interview. So generally, the interviews are of two types: where panel interviews, where there will be multiple professors in the interview, and single one-on-one sessions. So now in the panel interviews, it generally lasts anything between 15 to 30 minutes. So because there are a lot of faculty involved, and they may have a lot of other work to do, so they do not run for a long time. So maybe max 30 minutes. So what is important is that you may know the interviewers beforehand. So sometimes your professors let you know like who will be interviewing you when they actually mail you with the like no, like information like that you have been invited to the interview. So they will tell you that these are the faculty who are interested in talking to you, and they will be interviewing you. And sometimes it is not mentioned. So both of these cases is possible. And then there is you need to know like whether in these cases whether there will be panel interviews or not. So generally when they write about panel interviews, they use keywords like we will look into your profile, or like you can talk to us. So these are the keywords like we and us that they use in this kind of emails. So from that also you can get a good idea like whether it will be a panel interview or a single one-on-one session. And also like generally what happens in a panel interview is that since the time is short, so all panelists will ask you questions. So you may expect one or two questions from each of the faculty who is present in your interview. And uh, some of the questions may be related to your particular research interest, if in case the like a panelist is also in that particular subfield. Or maybe if they're not in that particular subfield, or they're in a very different subfield, they may ask you something like related to like science, or like common like coursework knowledge, or like something like future interest, and what are the problems that you think you can solve. So these are the things they can ask. So in my case, they asked me, I think, if I had $1 million, like what would be the like fundamental problem that I would be interested in solving in physical chemistry. So there are a lot of things like that that may be asked also, not just only related to your research interest. And so what are the tips for this kind of like panel interviews? So if you know the interviewers beforehand, then you get a like, you can always try to know about their fields of research, and you can also take a look at the type of problems that they are working on. So what happens is that generally faculty try to, or at least tend to, like ask you questions that is related to their subfield as well. So it would be at the common intersection of your research interest and their research interest. So if you know the research interest, you can get a good idea like which are the parts of your research interest that they would be focusing on, or they would be asking questions on. And also there will be it will give you some idea on what are the possible type of questions they may ask. So generally faculty who are suppose working in a computational setting, they may be willing, like asking you questions relating to a particular, like modeling you had done, or like if someone is an experimentalist and working in the same field, they will may be asking you like what is the rationale behind the doing this kind of experiment, and why you did this, or like why did you plot it like that. And they can ask you anything related to your research interest. And this is also a very important thing, that since if in case you do not know who your panelists are beforehand, so you can always expect that generally these panel interview sessions are designed in such a way that the faculty who are interviewing you, they are from a varied or diverse research background. So they can ask you questions about almost anything related to your research. So if you like are presenting a presentation, or you are speaking about something related to your research, and you say something about something that might not be a very big role in your own research project, but if that is something that your panelists you can always be sure that they can ask you questions from that as well. So even the most minutest of details become very important in this kind of panel interviews. So I would suggest that in this kind of panel interviews you can always like practice at least once, that because some of the like questions that they ask are very simple. So they would ask you like who you are, describe yourself, and describe your research interest. So whenever you should at least try to practice your research like speaking about your research interest and always make sure that you know the reasons about why you did a particular thing in your own research project. Sometimes we tend to forget that suppose I had done something in my second year research internship, and I did something and I do not remember why I did that. So they can ask you that. They can easily ask you why you did that. So you need to at least prepare, like at least like look into things, revisit your old research projects, and what are the papers that you read. So right before the interview, I would suggest that what you should do is that you should focus more on your own research experience for this kind of panel interviews at least, because in single one-on-one sessions you may ask about your like supervisor's research field as well, but in a panel interview you do not have enough time to like ask about the research experience of all like 3 or 4 panelists who are interviewing you. So that is impossible. So what you need to focus more is on your own research experience and your own discipline, so that you are ready to like answer any questions. So another problem that is like I won't say this is a problem, I would say like this is like trait of this kind of trait or like characteristic of this kind of interviews, is that generally in these interviews it's more of a question answer session, because it's you can expect like people are like very curious about like if there are like multiple people who are asking you questions and you are answering them. So everyone has a different perspective and background, so they can ask you varied number of questions. And so it will, the entire interview and your evaluation will actually depend on how well you answer the questions. So that is very important. So you should be prepared to answer almost any question that is being asked to you. So that is becomes very imperative in these panel interview sessions. And then there are the individual interviews. So generally, individual interviews are of three types. So, or as far as I have encountered, there are three types. So, one is the interview as informal discussions. So, this is something that happened during my application to MIT. So, in MIT, in addition to the TOEFL scores, they actually the faculty want to informally discuss something with you, so that they get a good idea how good your communication skills are, because or the TOEFL is just one single test, so that doesn't give you a good idea about that. So they always do some interviews which are informal, like what is your background, what have you done,
Um,
what do you want to do, and stuff like that. So there's a professional interview.
Sorry to interrupt, but your audio is getting lagged sometimes. So, would you consider switching your video so that I think the bandwidth gets?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can always go into the next thing is the professional interview. So this is a single one-on-one session where you are asked by a single faculty member, what are your research experiences, and then they proceed to ask you questions from your research experiences, and you can also ask them questions related to their research, their lab, or any future research ideas they may have, or any of their publications. And there is a third kind of professional interview where you are asked to make a presentation of your research work. So it's generally about a 10-minute presentation where you include the key results of all the research experiences that you have had. And also during this presentation you should make sure you try to include the most relevant results, which is related to the field that your potential interviewer is working in, so that you can have a good discussion about that. So generally these kind of interviews are longer than the panel interviews and may extend around 30 to to 1 hour and even more sometimes. And the mails always mention I would like to discuss this, or you can discuss this with me. So these are the keywords, and they can always you always know who the interviewer is beforehand, because generally the interviewer himself or herself will mail you. So you already know your interviewer at least 1 or 2 weeks beforehand. So, and generally the interviewer is someone who you have mentioned in your SOP that you are interested in working with. So that is also something that generally happens. So the questions that are generally asked are from those parts of your research experience that are relevant to the faculty's research experience. And occasionally they do ask general problems that are part of your relevant basic coursework, if you are working in particular field, if you're saying working in spectroscopy, they may ask you something related to your spectroscopy, why do you know why we do that, or do you know why we do why this happens. So these are some basic stuff they can ask you. So I would say is that you can actually do a little bit of homework, brush through your all the things that you thought you knew, and try to look into those things, so that you do not face a scenario like that where you do not know why you are doing this or that. So that is important. And what are the main tips for this kind of interview? So the most important tip is that you should definitely know about the research interest and latest publication from the faculty's research group. This is very important in the sense that you had already mentioned that faculty in your SOP. So you ideally have looked at the research interest of the faculty when you were submitting your application. So you are expected to know about his or her research interest. So just go through that and look at the latest publications from the research group. And if like you can always like discuss about the with the faculty, like anything that you find interesting in their publications, or like you cannot understand this, or why did they do this experiment, or why did they do this kind of calculation, or why did they do this kind of model. So the faculty are very like happy to see like if someone is very interested in their work, and that gives a good impression about you. So that is very important. And then if there is a presentation involved, try to highlight or prioritize results that are pertaining to the faculty's research areas. And or like if you have any skills that you develop from this kind of projects that are valuable for research work in those areas, so you should also prioritize that. And also like ask questions, because that is the only way you can show your like interviewer that you are interested in the program, you are interested in working in that particular field, you are interested with that in working in the that with that particular faculty. So it's very important that you ask questions. And the important characteristics of this kind of one-on-one sessions is that you actually get a like chance to discuss about the faculty's research and latest projects from the lab directly with the professors. So that's a very unique opportunity. So I would suggest that you use it well, because many times when you are discussing something with your with a professor who's working in the same field, you get like key insights about your own research projects as well. So I myself, when I was interviewing for Cornell in single molecule biophysics, I got some very interesting ideas while talking to a particular faculty, and that helped me like uh, in my learn a lot of new stuff related to my own field also. So it's a learning experience as well, I would say. And then you also get a chance to talk about latest developments in the field. So suppose you want to ask like how is this field developing, and how would that field be in like 5 years or 10 years. So the faculty who is working in that field, they can actually discuss with you like how they feel is the field developing, and what are the what are the things that the field will be focusing on in the next couple of years, or maybe 10 years down the line. So that is some key insight that you can get from your faculty. And also you can discuss like what are the interesting future projects that you can actually do in this field. So these are very important things. And the entire interview actually depends on the one-on-one interaction. So I think it is very imperative that you have to impress your interviewer. In panel interviews, even if you like do not uh, manage to impress any particular interviewer, you can still get through, because what matters is that you answer the questions more or less correctly. And since there are 3 faculty members or 4 faculty members, so they will take like a call based on everyone's views. So, but since this is a one-on-one session, so it becomes very imperative that you impress your interviewer. And this is something I realized like how can you build a rapport with your interviewer during a one-on-one session. So also these are you can build this rapport in panel interviews as well. So this is very important for any kind of interviews that you may be having. So apart from the science part, so apart from the research part, you should always show interest in the program, because you have already applied to the program. So you should always be asked willing to ask questions related to like some of the non-science stuff that is related to the program, like what are the norms or the processes involved in the graduate program. So what are the things that you have to do in your like first year, or anything or anything that is not clear from reading about the program online. So you should definitely ask questions about that. You should ask about the payment, because that is also a very important part, because in the graduate programs you are fully paid. And you need to ask like when you get your stipend, or like is there any what is the assurance that you would get your stipend throughout the program. So these are things you may ask your interviewers. And also if you are in a one-on-one session, you can ask additional things, like you can get to know about, you can ask your the faculty member, like what is his or her mentoring style towards his or her own students, and what do they expect from a incoming graduate student. Like do like so in mentoring style, you can ask them like, do they prefer a hands down approach, like when they like sit with you like almost every week and like see what progress you have made, or do they or are they like something like they do not go every week and ask you that, but like whenever you have finished a particular thing, you can always go and approach them. So there are a number of mentoring styles between among supervisors. So you should, I think, definitely ask about the mentoring style of supervisors, because that gives a good idea and also shows interest that you are actually considering joining that particular lab. And you should always ask about expectations from a graduate student. So like what are the things that they expect from a graduate student? So some people have some expectations from the graduate students that they join their lab. So suppose you have to work for the first year with a senior graduate student, or you can do your independent project after some time, or you can do it right from the beginning, or and stuff like that. So you can also ask like what are the number of holidays that you can take, so stuff like that also, because generally the holidays like the number of holidays you take is also something that is a norm of the particular research group that you join. And you can always ask them about the future directions of research and future opportunities in the field. And also you can ask them about like how you choose your project. Is it something that the supervisor will choose for you, or you can define your own project? These are also things that you can ask. And finally, you can always ask them about the timeline for the decision process, because you need to know like by when you should be expecting a result, whether a positive result or a negative result. But these questions are not something that are related to science or research, but these actually help create a good impression about you, because this shows that you are actually interested in that particular program or like faculty. So that goes a long way. I think that goes a long way, because what matters most in graduate program is that you are actually interested in doing research. That is the most important thing. So I think these are questions that you can always ask to show your interest in the particular program. And be your own self. That is the most important take home message. Do not try to do like behave in a way that you are not. And like if you do not know something, or like you do not know why you are doing this or why you're doing that, just say that upfront, because do not try to stall and like say this and that and like go in circles. Don't do these kind of things, because that creates a very bad impression. If you do not know something, say like straightforward, or like if you are like if you have some particular reasons for doing this or that, just be straightforward with them, because that goes a long way, I think. So now I will be talking about some key insights for applying to some of the top US schools. So what happens is that these ideas suggestions that I gave in the previous slide, so these are mainly related to all the schools that in US that you may apply to. Some of these are very relevant to European schools institutes as well. But the thing is that applying to the top US schools generally includes some other stuff as well, because in the top US schools the competition is very high and the selection rates are very low. So I'll be talking about the competition level at this kind of very top rated grad programs, like suppose in the top 5 programs in a particular field or stuff like that. So generally the top schools in US are very extremely competitive due to large number of applications each year. So if you look at the graduate selection rates of a particular grad program that is very highly ranked, then you will see that the selection rates are very low. It's around 5 to 20%. So that includes both the American students as well as international students. And generally all of the like top ranked schools have some basic idea about what is the ratio of international and domestic students that they want to maintain in the program. So Cornell particularly maintains a 1:3 ratio. And so now is another important thing that you should know when you're applying to these top programs. So in the top programs, what happens is that since the selection rates are very low, the cohort size is very low also. So generally, if you go to some universities like Berkeley or MIT or Princeton or Stanford, so you will see that the cohort size is so low, there are hardly 4 to 8 students in particular sub-disciplines. So like if you go into biology, so biology has different parts, right? Biochemistry, cell biology, cancer biology. There are different sub-disciplines in biology. But each, when you are applying to a particular department, say biology in particular, suppose you are applying to biology, you will be actually accepted in one of the sub-disciplines. You cannot suppose you are applying in biophysics, your uh, profile will not be judged by someone who is working on the biochemistry part, because generally it is very sub-discipline low. When you are actually applying to say quantum biology or some other biology department, it's mainly related to, you are not actually applying to biology at all, you are applying to biophysics program because, or biochemistry program. So it's the sub-disciplines that you are actually applying to, not actually the entire program. And so if you look at the sub-disciplines, comparing to the total grad cohort size, so generally the number of students they take each year is around 4 to 8. So that is because generally there are like 6 to 7 disciplines totally in total, and the total number of students they actually take is around 50 or 60 or something like that. So it is very low, and if you maintain a 1:3 ratio in that as well, so generally what you are competing for is like 1 or 2 spots, and with all the candidates from all over the world except US. So it's a very intense high competition, I know. But that is why it's also very important to know. I always suggest that if you are applying to something that is very highly selective, you should know your competition. You should know what is the rate of competition, what are my chances of getting in, and what should I do for that. Once you know the competition, you know that you have to give your absolute best. So that is very important. Although this may look daunting that actually you're applying to 1 or 2 spots, you should also know that where this is not as bad, because generally the people who will be applying with you also, they will be also people who have taken undergrad research experiences in this particular field only. So it's not a very insanely high number, but it's comparatively high compared to some other colleges. So the competition is high. So that is the thing that you need to know. So you should always make sure that when you're applying to this kind of programs, you are putting in your best effort. So and then when you are applying to accepting acceptance to a particular sub-discipline, then you can once you are accepted, you can go and switch maybe your and work in some interdisciplinary field or stuff like that. But even in departments where where there is no sub-discipline mentioned, you are still expected to at least be a part of that particular sub field where you had actually accepted in. So that is very important. So in chemistry, I know whenever you apply to chemistry programs, you are not actually applying mainly to chemistry, but you are applying to a particular sub-discipline like either chemical biology, physical chemistry, or organic chemistry, or inorganic chemistry. And some places have other fields like material science, and so there are lots of other subfields as well. So you should look into that. And another important thing is that you need to have a very good command over English and a good knowledge of your coursework, because that is something that is expected that you should know, because you have to serve as a TA for 2 to 3 semesters. So a lot of people ask a lot of times do I need a very good TOEFL score? Do I need a very good CGPA? So the TOEFL score is actually important, because that gives them a that's an assurance to the grad committee that you can actually handle the TAship for this kind of undergrad courses. And the even if the CGPA is not that important, at least good grades in your relevant coursework is very important, so that they know that the people who are teaching, like who are actually teaching assistant for these courses, they know the stuff. So this is also very important because most of these top like rated grad programs that we speak about, so these are also very good undergrad institutions. So their undergrad education is very top-notch quality. So they would expect that the TAs who are serving for this for the courses in these undergrad departments, they are also like very well qualified. So this is something that you can do to like improve your some of the key insights. What are the things that you can do to like improve your like chances? So you need to show or demonstrate excellent knowledge about the field that you are applying to. This is of the utmost importance. Like you can do this through a lot of ways. You can have very good grades in the relevant subjects, or like you can have publications in that field, or you can have like very new research proposals, unique research proposals that you may have developed about that field. But whatever it is, that you need to show that you know absolutely the very best about your field. That is very imperative, because that is the only thing that you can show through your SOP and your research statement, which is basically a part of the SOP that shows the like previous research experiences. And through that, you actually can demonstrate what is your knowledge about the field. And then you need to show some what are the prior experiences in the relevant field, and you need to convince the grad committee that your experience makes you the best fit for in this particular field. And then what is important is that you should know all the latest publications in your field. This is also very important, because what happens is that sometimes you should like people say like, have you read this paper, or have you read this work? This is something that is very relevant to the research proposal that you are suggesting. So you should know that. You should know like what are the people who are the leaders of your field, what are they working on, and always know like try to understand the work that they are working in, and like what are the experiments or calculations that they are doing. And if you had been in their position, what are the experiments or calculations that you would do, and why would you do them? Because these are the things that can help you to gain an insight about what are the new research proposals that you can do in this kind of field. And grades and publications alone do not matter if you're not enthusiastic about your own research and your field. So that is something you have to show. Like, suppose someone goes and says like, I have very good grades, I will get into this program, or I have this number of publications, or very good publications in very high impact journals, then I should get into this program. No, because that alone doesn't matter. That is a very good head start. That is a very good head start. But you need to show that you are enthusiastic about your field. Try to like speak enthusiastically about the research that you are doing, and what was the rationale behind your research. Interviews, speak enthusiastically about your research. What are the new things that you might be interested in doing, and what are the new ideas that you have. And always try to find shortcomings in your research, because your research is not perfect. No research in the world can be like absolutely perfect. There may be something that that may be worthwhile of like trying to look into, and there may be some other things that may be done in the future. And why should you do them? What is the relevance of doing this kind of pursuing this kind of questions? So these are things that you should always look into. And these are also the things that grad committees look at during the interviews. So, and also now I will go into some general suggestions regarding the program. So try to apply to a field which you have relevant grades or research experiences in, without compromising your research experiences. This is very important, because at least when, you should have an like having a good background like speaks volumes about your research. So that is very important. And then you should go and ask your supervisors like, which fields of research is your profile best suited for. So suppose you're doing an MS thesis, or like someone asked like, can I do something different from my MS thesis? So suppose you're doing your MS thesis in some particular field, you can always go and ask your supervisor that, sir or ma'am, I am doing this MS thesis in this particular field. this kind of research, and I do not want to do research in this particular field. I want to shift into another field. Can you suggest like what are the other fields of research that my profile would be a good suit for? And can always suggest you some fields related to that field which you might actually shine at. So this is very important, and you can if you are trying to like change your field from whatever you did earlier, so try to like read as much as possible about that new field, because you do not have any experience in that. So you need to read a lot, and you need to also explain why you are deciding to switch from a particular field to another field, and which skills from your prior background can actually you use in the new field. So that is very important. And also try to start so another thing, this is about the application process. So when you are applying to a number of programs together, so there may be some top rate choice program like programs, some middle programs, some lower choice programs. So always start from the lower choice unis during the application fill up. The reason I say this is because every time you are like tailoring your SOP or personal statement for a particular university, you make edits in the body of the like SOP or the personal statement, and these edits actually improve the general quality of your SOP or personal statement time to time. So after two applications, you would know much better about what to write in a SOP than what you had written in your first application. So you should ideally keep your best choice programs till the end, because that's when you write your best SOP and your personal statement, I think. But you can do it the other way around also. That doesn't matter much, because some people also may be comfortable in writing many drafts of the SOP until they perfect it and give it in all the programs all at once. So that is also a very good method. And also you should also show that you have extensively studied about the program, about the department and the campus in your statements. So suppose you are talking about like doing something for the community, like you want to like spread science communication or science awareness among background among the like local neighborhood children, or like people from like economically lower backgrounds, or anything you want to do for the society. You can always explain that I know that this particular program has this student body that is actually doing this kind of work, and I would like to join that. Or you can always say like, I know about this particular initiative that takes place in this particular region neighborhood, and I can always join that. So that shows your enthusiasm about that you have actually considered this program for a long time, and that shows your enthusiasm. And that is the thing that people actually look at, that you have an enthusiasm for the program, and that increases your chances a lot. And one more thing I would suggest as the last general suggestion that I would have is that do not like keep all your applications till the very end. Do not like keep them pending till the last date, because in case you have some problem with paying the money for the applications, they need to be paid by credit cards, sometimes with debit cards, sometimes they do not work, sometimes they work. Lots of things can happen. So do not keep the applications till the very end. Submit one application, then move to the next application. That is the way you should go. I think that is a very good way to go, because at least you are sure that you have completed this many applications, and you are not keeping everything till the last day, till the last minute. So that is something I would suggest you to do. And that's the end. So thank you for your kind attention, and I will move into any questions that you might have.
Right. So we have one question which says that can you please tell us which university you will opt for and why? So I think you could like for the goodness of all of us, you could just summarize whatever choices you had while you were applying and why you chose those options, and why will you choose whichever you will choose in the future if you are ready to divulge those details.
Okay, so when I personally didn't actually like, I can describe my own research experience. So application experience. So around I think May, June, July, I was not actually sure that if I wanted to apply to PhD programs, because I didn't feel like I personally didn't have any publications. I still do not have any publications. So I always consider that publications are a very important part to your applications, but It's not very important, I think. So anyway, so during like June, July, August, around that time, I was not sure if I wanted to apply. And then in September, I talked to some of my like research supervisors, and they suggested that you should always give it a try and look how things turn out. So I gave the TOEFL around, I think, in the end of September, and I had a score of around 114. So it was more or less above the cutoffs for all the like each section, and I didn't have any problems related to the TOEFL cutoffs. And then came the like decision, like which are the programs that I want to apply in. So my research experience is mainly in three broad categories. So I have worked in NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance, and its applications, related field to magnetic resonance imaging, MRI. And that is one of the broad fields that I'm interested in. And I'm also interested in single molecule spectroscopy, which is something I'm pursuing for my MS thesis here at IISER. And another thing that I'm working on is with a group at Utrecht, which is in modeling for computational biophysics. And so when I wanted to apply to programs, I wanted to look at like what are the like fields that my research background is most suited for. So generally NMR is something that is in part of core chemistry, core physical chemistry. Single molecule spectroscopy sometimes is a part of core chemistry, physical chemistry, and sometimes is also a part of biological fields also, because its main applications, a lot of main applications of single molecule are in biological imaging as well. And my computational modeling like experience can be like, it's very diverse, so you can use it anywhere. So that is the thing that prompted me, like I should apply to some chemistry programs and some biophysics programs. And in biophysics, I mainly chose like departments which are very strong in single molecule research. So the two most important like single molecule research, I think three of them are there. So one of them is UIUC, one is John Hopkins, and Cornell, and also Stanford. So these are the four programs so that I considered. But UIUC required a GRE, so I didn't apply there because I didn't want to give the GRE for a single like department. And so I applied to Stanford, John Hopkins, and Cornell for my biophysics. I didn't get into Stanford, but I got into John Hopkins and Cornell. And in chemistry, I looked at programs that worked both in different kinds of spectroscopy. So whether it's NMR or like ultra-fast spectroscopy or single molecule spectroscopy. So there were a lot of programs in chemistry. So the main programs that I considered was obviously UC Berkeley, MIT, Penn State, Chicago, and I think uh, Princeton, and I think there was one, UCLA. So these are the six places that I wanted to apply in. And I didn't get in, I think, three places. So I got into Penn State, I got into Berkeley, and I got into MIT. So these are the three places that I got into. And that's one thing that you never know like which programs would click, because when I actually applied, I thought that UCLA would be somewhere where I would get an acceptance, and Berkeley was a long shot. So it happened, the reverse thing happened. So it's very unpredictable. So you cannot always predict like which will work out and which will not. Uh, so in the future, I would maybe like consider in between MIT or UC Berkeley, because these are the places that have very good like spectroscopy research. Also, I am considering Hopkins, because Hopkins has also a very good like single molecule group that I am interested in working with. So mainly, I think in between these three choices, I will choose one of them. So I haven't yet decided. I need to talk to all the faculty who I'm interested in. So there are virtual weekends. So if you get selected in any of these programs, there will be something called a virtual weekend, or in your case, it will be an actual weekend where you get a all paid trip to like US to visit the universities. So yeah, so you get to talk to your supervisors. They can give you like advice, can discuss like whatever research projects they are interested in pursuing, and you can talk to them, they know their mentoring style, and like you can determine if that particular department is a good fit for you. So that's all for my story. So that's about it. Anything else?
Yes, we have another question by Deepto who says, nowadays GRE is not required in many cases. So, how would you recommend if someone wants to skip it?
In biology, of the programs, I think in chemistry also a lot of programs are actually quitting the GRE. So I would suggest that is a very good bet if you do not want to give the GRE. But one thing I would tell you. So this is something I personally think is very important. So do not compromise with the research groups that you want to work with. So that is something that happened from my case. So I personally thought of a single molecule group that I wanted to work with, and I thought that they might waive off the GRE because everyone else is doing it, but they didn't. So and the time when they informed me about the decision, it was already too late to give the GRE. So but that is very important that that is the reason why I'm telling everyone to start early, because if you start early, you get a good idea like what are the expectations from the grad programs where where the faculty you're interested with are in, and you can get to know about the requirements for this kind of departments, and you can actually fulfill them, because giving them is not a major challenge, I would say, unless it's the monetary part. It's not that a big challenge. Like you need to prepare yourself for for GRE, I think 2 or 3 months of preparation. You can do that in your summer, or you can do that anytime, and you can give it. But the thing is that you need to choose an appropriate time for that, because do not expect you go into September and you decide, oh, I want to apply, I haven't given any of TOEFL or the GRE, I haven't mailed any of the professors, let me start now. That's a very difficult scenario, because then you have to do everything at once. It happened to us, because for my case also, I didn't actually plan my TOEFL, so it happened at the end, very end, in September. So I didn't get a chance to mail a lot of faculty as well. So that is something I would suggest that you guys avoid. Like try to do everything early and in a well structured manner, so that you do not have to compromise with the research groups that you want to work with. That is very important.
Right.
I
So,
think that answers the question.
yes. So we have just one last question that says that asks. I mean, this is a very pertinent question when we see all of you guys getting into such good colleges. How to stay focused and not get disheartened when you see your peers getting into Ivies? And this was asked by Aesha.
Okay, so I think it's not very important in humanity or anywhere, because what is most important, I think even more important than a very good, very reputed department as well, is you should know you should always work with the faculty whom you are most comfortable and interested in working with. There are many outstanding faculties who are working who are in colleges that are not even ranked in the top 100. So there are, I can talk about many single molecule researchers, even the particular guy who is one of the world leaders in our field. He doesn't hail from any of the top institutions in the world. So but yeah, so that can happen. Like there will be some people who will get into top colleges, there will be some people who cannot get who do not get into those colleges. That's a part and parcel of life. So do not get too much disheartened. You should always, yeah, one thing you should always see is that once you apply to a particular program, if you have mailed a faculty and you have received a response, and if you didn't get into the program, you can always ask what if there was anything significant that is that I should improve if I want to apply elsewhere, or that is something you can always take something back from anything that you are doing in even in these applications. So I think this is also a very good learning experience. Like sometimes we think that this is suppose sometimes we are very disheartened because something I can tell you. So this is one of my stories. So when I was thinking about applying to this kind of colleges or not, so I met a lot of people who were like talking about, oh, you know that this college is beyond our reach, this beyond our level, as they call it. So this is something you need an HR paper to go there. You need this, you need that. They will tell you lots of stuff like that. And the thing is that not even me, not even if I received an admittance, I also do not know what makes you click as an applicant. No one knows. Like it is very random. So you can always like increase your chances and hope for the best, but you cannot say like this will make I will definitely get into this, or this is something I cannot get into. So like we always judge ourselves with someone. So suppose in my case also, I always compared. So I had this friend who got into like UC Berkeley, but in a like slightly different field, and I always ended up like comparing me with him, and I always felt like, oh, this guy had such a good profile compared to me, so I don't think I will get into that. So I would say that do not go into that. Like just apply and see what happens, because there may be a chance that your profile, your like experiences are more tailored to a particular way of narrative, a particular problem or a particular research direction that may be very well tailored for you. So you will never know that unless you apply. So if you are like, oh, that guy or that person girl has such a good profile and I will not apply because my profile doesn't look anything like his or her, then you will never know like whether you could actually get into there or not. So I would suggest that you apply to as many programs as possible. Obviously it's not possible to like apply to every program, it costs a lot of money, but yeah, you should try to apply to as many programs as possible and try to see what happens. So that's the thing I would say.
Yes, I missed one question that Rohan Rahale asks. So, does the time of submission of the application matter? Is there any advantage in submitting much early?
I don't know if that matters a lot, because most of the applications that I got admitted into were either very early or very late. So I do not know if that matters or not. But yeah, but, I mean, the only reason I am telling you to apply early is that so that any last minute problems, there are no last minute problems. It happens every year. Like you are expected to like submit on December 1 midnight, and you find that on December 1 morning that your credit card isn't working. Then you have to like search for a credit card and do this, do that. It's a nightmare. So I would suggest that you apply early, but I don't think there is much advantage related to that. But yeah, one thing Rohan might be right about. So there are some programs in US which have a rolling admission. So in a rolling admission, what happens is that if you submit the program like application, say suppose on December 1, and then it will get evaluated after December 1 on December 2 or December 3 or whichever date, and the application portal doesn't close on December 1. You can continue to apply to say like December 15. And whenever you submit your application, suppose you are applying to on December 10th. So your application goes into evaluation on December 11th and so on. So in those cases, I would suggest to apply early, because sometimes what happens is that there may be some good profiles in the who have applied early, and they start announcing decisions sometimes even before the deadline is reached. So that may be a problem, because you would always want to apply first so that it is in consideration. So that is very important. Yeah.
Right, I think we just have the last two questions. One is that how do you say no to a professor?
Not a professor related to what?
I don't know. The person has just asked, how do you say no to a professor? But I'm estimating it might be in relation to some PhD acceptance that you have got, but you don't want to go.
Oh, okay. So that is very natural. So it's very natural thing that some people may get multiple acceptances and they have to decide one particular offer over another, and you just tell the professor that although you felt that it was a very good nice time to talk to him or her, and the program which you think is best suited for you, so you would like to maintain a collaboration maybe in the future, and hope to collaborate or talk in the future or meet again in some conference or like that. But it's natural, so don't worry about that. It's not very difficult. Okay. Anything else?
Right. And the last question. Yes, this is the last question, and this has kind of been repeated, but if you could only repeat once. Is subject GRE only a necessity, or can it add substantially to one's application?
Okay, so general GRE is sometimes required by some applications and stuff like that. But subject GRE is something I think that can add value to your application because suppose someone is switching to a chemistry or a chemistry thing to a biology discipline. So the subject GRE can actually negate some of the inexperience that you may have in this particular field. If you can have a if you have a very good then that can actually negate some of the apprehensions of the grad committee that if you're whether you're ready for research in a new direction. So I think that can add some substantial weightage to your application.
Right. I think that's the last. That was the last question for the day, and we thank you again for
Mhm.
taking out your time to talk to all of us and share your insights, which I no doubt think have proved valuable to all of us. And the fact that we would be probably be able to reach you if we need any other kind of assistance or any other kind of doubt clearance.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
If you have any problems, you're always free to come to my room or like drop me an email in my institute ID. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Don't ask me to share my SOP or my SCP for that, because these are things that you should do yourself, as I had mentioned. So other than that, if you have any problem, you're always free to reach out to me.
Right. Thank you so much, Ankita. This was a pleasure interacting with you. I think all of our viewers out there have had a wonderful session, whoever was watching. And whoever wasn't, this video would be available in YouTube for your later perusal. Thank you so much. And good night to everyone.